Good morning. Today we start the last book of the book of the book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, or the Revelation of John. And this is the best known of the apocalyptic writings in the Bible. And I don't know. I mean, our scheduled reading today is Revelation chapter 1. I may get into that. I want to talk a little bit about what exactly apocalyptic literature is, and then a little bit about an introduction to Revelation. And so we may not get a lot of the first chapter today, but we'll talk about that for sure tomorrow with 1 and 2. And there are 22 chapters in the book of Revelation, so I might take a day or two and combine a couple of those so that I can concentrate a little bit on a couple of Christmas devotions as we get closer to Christmas itself. The apocalyptic material is literature that first started appearing, it's in our Old Testament writings. If you've been reading the Bible in a year, we just finished reading the book of Daniel in the Old Testament, and chapters 7 through 12 are the apocalyptic material. Apocalypse, that base word means revelation, making known, explaining. And so the apocalyptic material makes known somewhat of the end times that way. So we have in Daniel, we have that apocalyptic material. There are some in Isaiah chapters 24 to 27, in Ezekiel 38 and 39, especially I think about the story of the Valley of Dry Bones in Ezekiel. And, and there's some in Joel 2 and in Zechariah as well in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, we have, Jesus talks a little bit about end times and resurrection and, the weeping and wailing in the morning and those things. He talks about them, and we hear a little bit about, in Mark and in Matthew 24, Luke 12. But there are, other places other than Revelation that reveal some of the end times, and in this end times, it's the continuation of the struggle of good and evil, of Satan against God, of eternal salvation, eternal condemnation. It's a combination of those things, and the apocalyptic writings have symbolic visions in them, which are some of the things that we have a lot of trouble understanding. What do these things mean? In Revelation 1, there are 7 angels. Well, these 7 angels represent the 7 churches, and it tells us that at the end of the chapter. But many of the things, the different beasts and the cherubim and the seraphim and all of these things that we see and hear and witness, we don't completely understand. And there are symbolic visions that even people of the early church, couldn't understand or know the exact meaning, because it's somewhere in the future, and we continue to look for that the second coming of Christ. So we have symbolic visions, we have otherworldly, journeys. They're transported and they see this, someplace else, and this is the vision I have, and the journey that takes them here and there. And I think about the book of Revelation. There's the water, the river of life runs, and we see that imagery of the river of life in the book of Revelation. And all things draw their life from this river of life that way. Oftentimes the symbolism that we see in the apocalyptic material is colorful. It can sometimes be frightening. It's most of the time confusing. We don't really understand it. And some of this apocalyptic stuff is secret. Don't say anything yet. And and Jesus did that with his disciples. He, who do the people say that I am? You are the Messiah. Well, don't tell anybody yet. And with the demons or the other people that have been healed, you are the Son of God. And this, especially the book of Mark, it's this the secrecy, the mystery. I'm glad you know, but don't tell everybody else yet. So we have, a little bit of the secrecy, a little bit of that mystery is always there. And sometimes the apocalyptic material is written in, as it's, been maybe by somebody else, as a pseudonym, and we don't really understand that. They'll quote maybe from one of the Old Testament figures, Moses, and maybe it really wasn't. But there's different things that within it that are just continue to be a mystery. The content of the apocalyptic material, the revelation, and this is, as I said, apocalypse kind of means revelation, and so this is why we have it, the revelation of John. It's the making known of what God has seen, what John has seen in a vision that Jesus and God gave to him, and so he's making this known. So the Revelation talks about, another big word is eschatology, or it's predictions about the final outcome of the ages, the final outcome of the world, Jesus' second coming. And it's for the Jewish people, it's the restoration of Israel, and an earthly kingdom with Jesus reigning here on earth is a part of what they see. As when the end times come, there's going to be this cosmic battle between Satan and Jesus. There's going to be the Antichrist, the false Christ that comes, and there will be all this chaos. Talk about 7 years of unrest and so many different things, but it's the restoration of Israel is one of the big things. And if you know history, in the 40s, or 45 or 46, or maybe 48, Israel was restored as a nation. It had not been a nation for centuries, but it was. So this is one of the things that the Jewish people look at, was the restoration of Israel again as a nation. That this is one of the things that is ushering in the end of times, the final revealing of the apocalypse. So an apocalyptic material is different than prophecy. Prophecy, was Old Testament prophecy. Unto you this day is born in the city of David. Or the prophecy of, see, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you, talking about John the Baptist. We have those prophecies. We have the prophecies of, through David, that your offspring. We have so many prophecies of Jesus. So the prophecies are predictions of future happenings. The apocalyptic material is the revelation of what will happen. It's very similar in many ways, but there are subtle differences between apocalyptic eschatology, or the revealing of things to come that way, than a prophecy. But it's we don't need to worry about that a lot, I guess. But again, it's the forces of good and evil continue to battle. We have the archangel Michael, and we have Belial, or Satan, battling against him. We have so many different things going on that way. And the Dead Sea Scrolls also have some more apocalyptic revelations and things that happen as well. And some of the wordings in the apocalyptic material are birth pangs and our present troubles and our growing anxieties. And so there are scenes of battle, there are words of warning. And I think about Revelation begins to the 7 churches, and it names these churches, it names these communities that are specific in being singled out by God, maybe I should say, but yet this prophecy, the apocalyptic material, the revelation of John is not only for those 7 churches, it's for all of us, but it remains a mystery. So, I mean, how relevant to today is this apocalyptic material? What difference does it make in your life and in my life? The the reality is that, I mean, so many ways it doesn't make any difference, but the reality is it makes the huge difference in remembering that the apocalyptic material talks about the battle between good and evil, and it talks about the end of times, the end of our life, salvation. It talks about the difference between heaven and hell, and the struggle between good and evil. And the hope is that the good will work out, in us. And the hope, the Christian hope, is a confident expectation. So I don't want you to think I'm just saying, well, it's a kind of a wishful thing. No. Our hope as Christians in the eschatology of the apocalyptic, silence that for a second. But the revelation is the good news for us in Jesus Christ. And we see Jesus Christ all the way through the book of the Revelation of John. So I ended up talking longer about that than I had intended. But the book of Revelation is an inspired picture book. I mean, John gives us very vivid pictures that we can see in our minds of these different beasts, and the visions that he has are so very real, and come to us to encourage us and sustain us as we live each life faithful to this God who is always faithful to us. May God richly bless you again today.